Okay, in this segment we're going to learn a little bit more about working with SOLOForest. Okay, I've gone through the process of collecting a little bit of GPS data right here. This simulates a fence, this little line feature, and this simulates a wetland right here. Okay, I'm just going to go over a few of the toolbar buttons. I'm going to make a couple of changes here real quick. Okay, we'll start off with the zoom tools. Okay, this toolbar right here contains all your zooming tools. You can toggle it on or off just by hitting this little button down at the very bottom. Now most of the time I prefer to leave it turned on at all times. Okay, the first button on the toolbar is zoom to full extent. Alright, when you click on that, it will zoom the map out so that all of your layers fit the screen. Okay, so I've got the topo layer on the outer boundary here. I've got the aerial photo kind of in the center, and then I've got some log data right in the middle right there. Okay, so this zooms you out so that everything fits on the screen. The next button is a little yellow flag. Anytime you see a yellow flag in Solo, that means something about logged data. So since this is on the zoom toolbar, whenever I click on that, that should zoom you in to just the data that I've logged, just the stuff that I've logged with my GPS. Okay, the next toolbar button is the zoom window. If you click on it, it'll highlight it and it'll be good for one use, and then you can come over here on the screen, you can tap and you can drag, and that will create a little box that will become the zoom window. So whenever you let go or release pressure, it will zoom you in. Okay, and notice that after you use it once, it turns itself off. Okay, now on the screen, if you need to pan a little bit, you can just tap and drag. You don't need to use any type of zoom tools just to pan the screen. Okay, the next thing you're going to see is the fixed zoom in. So just click that. That just zooms it in. Alright, zoom out, just the same, in reverse. Alright, the next button is the zoom to previous extent. So you can click that. Actually, it has a couple of previous zooms in queue, so you can keep clicking on it. It'll take you back to previous zoom extents. The last button is the follow current location, which allows you to, when you have a GPS signal, click on this button. It'll never let your GPS position leave the screen, no matter how close or how far you're zoomed out. It will automatically pan the screen and not let your GPS position leave the screen. Okay, so that's the zoom tools. Alright, top toolbar buttons. The first one is going to be log with, and you're going to almost always have this log with GPS. Alright, the next toolbar button is going to be the stylus use, what you want your stylus or stylus pen to do when you touch the screen. Usually you're going to have this set on stylus selects whole feature. Okay, that icon right there. What this allows you to do is when you've created a polygon or a line, you can simply click somewhere on the boundary of it and it'll display your acreage on there. Okay, like with this line right here, I could click on it and it would give me the let's okay there. Let me pan over a little bit so you can see this, and it should display the yep, it's a fence, 0.7 acres if the point of beginning were to close with the point of ending, and 338.5 meters is the length. Okay, the next button is going to be the log static. So if you had a GPS position and you wanted to collect a static position or static point, which is the process of averaging positions over a period of time, you simply click this button here, go to the All tab to choose a new feature. You could choose something like a hazard, and then double click on that. It would you could go and specify some attributes from a pick list, like what type of hazard it was. Then you go over here to GPS status tab, and it would, if I had a GPS hooked up, it would show me the number of positions that I'd collected and the deviation between those positions. I normally collect 20 observations and try to make sure my deviation is less than a meter or 3 feet. And then I'll hit log now when I'm done. Okay, I'm simply going to hit cancel to close out since I'm not, I don't have my GPS. Alright, the next button is grid generate. You'll only need that if you're generating a cruise grid on a polygon. Alright, the next button is the log by interval. This is whenever you want to collect data when the antenna is in motion. Like if you're driving a machine, you're driving a four-wheeler, driving in a vehicle, or walking maybe a timber stand or a road. You click this button, you get the same list of features that you had before. Go to the All tab and create a new one. If I were going to do a fence, I could click on fence, hit OK, give it some attribute information like a type, hit OK. and then it will ask me, do you want to log by a time interval or a distance interval. So you choose whichever you like best using the appropriate radio button, and then double tap in this field and adjust it to whatever settings you want. Okay, and whenever you're ready, you just hit start and it'll start collecting data. Just hit pause when you're done and close out. Okay, next button on the toolbar is the measure tool, and I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so I can show you how this works. Alright, it's very similar to the measure tool that we saw in FGIS earlier. Alright, you activate the measure tool simply by clicking on it. It highlights it. You can come over and click a position on the map. Okay, I think you get the idea. Let me zoom out a little bit more. Okay, it'll show you the total length of the line or the segments, and it'll also show you the area that's enclosed. To turn the measure tool off, simply click on it like that again. It'll turn itself off. If you want to use it again, just click on it, and you can come in here and click on the screen. It'll give you the distance between every segment, and it'll also give you the total area as if the last position snaps shut to the first one. Okay, it's a pretty handy tool. If you want to see feet instead of meters, you can go to the File menu, go to Settings, go to the General tab, and change this to meters, or change this from meters to feet. And once you're done using the measure tool, you probably want to go back and change that back to meters. Okay, and you can see now that our distances have been converted to feet instead of meters. Okay, so when I'm done with the measure tool, I'll just click that to turn it off. The next button on the toolbar is the navigate tool. You'll use that if you have the GPS activated and maybe you want to navigate to a position on the screen or to a point on a line or a point on a polygon. You just click that. Fairly simple process, pretty much self-explanatory. Alright, this is the buffer feature tool. This will allow you to create a buffer around an area or on a point. Stand by just a second and I will log a point and I will generate a buffer on it. Okay, now to better illustrate the buffer tool, I've created an abstraction called rock right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate a buffer on it. I'm going to simply change my stylus use to stylus selects log data, and I'm going to click on the little icon right there for rock, or the actual position that I logged. I'm going to hit the buffer tool. Alright, and then I'm going to search for features. I'm going to choose hazards, find. Okay, it shows me that one. Hit next. Okay, now that's the rock that's in question. I can put my buffer distance around it, so if you just want to buffer this rock outcrop by maybe 30 feet or so, just type in 30 and then hit create buffer, and it'll put a buffer around that. And then this point you can hit OK, and it's going to ask you what kind of feature do you want to make this buffer. So obviously let's make it a buffer, and I'll just hit OK right here, and it actually created a new feature for me. So if I zoom out, you'll see not only do I have the hazard right there, which is the rock outcrop, but I have the 30-foot buffer around it. Okay, pretty simple to do. Alright, the last button on the toolbar is the export to shapefile button. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, but you'll use the export to shapefile when you're done collecting all your GPS data and you want to transfer this data back to the PC to create a map. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my project settings real quick, change my distance units back to meters so that when I export this data out, it will line up with my base map data. Okay, we're back in business here. Alright, at this point I'm simply going to hit the export to shapefile button. Alright, you can choose an output directory, and you also need to make sure the export format is ArcView shapefile. But the output directory, I'm going to go to select, and I'm going to double click on the export folder. I'm going to create a new folder inside export, and I'm just going to call it Empire GPS. Okay, once you're through typing in, just get rid of the keypad by hitting the keypad button right here, and then hit create folder. Alright, are you sure? Yes. Alright, so now that's where my GPS data is going to get written to. At this point, all I got to do is hit export. It wrote those files to the that particular folder, and now I can close out of this window, and now I can go pull that GPS data back over to my PC, and I can pull it into FGIS or whatever other mapping program you want to use.